Joining us now with more insight on the war in Iran is Alex Vatanka, Middle East Institute Fellow. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
So, I think a lot of us waking up this morning hearing President Trump wrapping up this rhetoric again, saying that, quote, a civilization will die tonight. I mean, that's a very big statement. Can we have your reaction to this kind of threat? And if he follows through, what are the ramifications here?
Right. Look, I mean, the president has been, over the course of 1 week, he has gone from talking about, putting Iran back in the Stone Age till his press conference, I think it was yesterday, where he talked about, he has no problems with the people of Iran. He has respect for them. He wants Iran to do well as a country. And then he now is promising an end of a Persian civilization of 5,000 years, never to come back again. So all over the place, as you can expect, the Iranians from across the spectrum are not liking what the president has to say. His messaging really has to be tightened up. I think what he does, he's helping the regime's narrative in Tehran. And the regime's narrative has always been, this war is not against the regime. This war is against the country of Iran, because the American Trump administration doesn't want to see an independent country in Iran. So really a problem in terms of messaging. I hope the president has more Iran specialists helping with some of these messaging that he's engaging in.
So, Alex, with this threat looming, how do you assess Iran's negotiating position right now?
The United States has put out its set of demands. You could call it maximalist or not. That obviously depends on your perspective. The Iranians, in my view, are also putting out pretty maximalist demands in terms of, asking for control of the Strait of Hormuz, which really is a non-starter for not just the United States, but the rest of the international community. But I do see a way forward if there's a genuine commitment to diplomacy. The maximalist demands can be bridged if you genuinely want to at least have a temporary ceasefire and build on it. But I'm not sure if that's what the Iranians think the American side is interested in. I suspect what the Iranians are hearing from Donald Trump is war of attrition continues and the regime will crumble. And that's what I think the Iranian regime thinks the end goal here is for the Trump White House.
Iran's getting its youth involved, calling on them to form human chains, even urging parents to send their children to manned checkpoints that have been targeted in airstrikes. How do you see that strategy working out, especially with what the president had to say?
It just shows you how willing this regime is, how far it's willing to go to make a point that it's not going to surrender to Donald Trump. That's how I read it. I mean, to put children in harm's way in this way is just to make America look bad, because they know how this is going to go down around the world. If you have kids, young people dying in American targeting of civilian infrastructure, of course, America's image is going to take a good head, beating. But that's not what the regime, necessarily is worried about in the sense of what happens to the people of the youth of Iran. So really bad place to be, but they've done this before. I mean, I remember the Iran-Iraq war where youth were recruited to go and fight Saddam's army, and that was also reckless. And again, we have another example of reckless policymaking in Tehran.
And as we know, Iran's leadership has changed following the deaths of top figures. How does this shift or change affect Iran's approach to war, as well as diplomacy with the U.S. and Israel?
Frankly, I don't think there's been a shift in the key personalities in Iran. I know President Trump talks about regime change, has already happened. I think that's one way for him to leave a potential way out of this war. If he decided he wants to call it a day and move on, he can then claim that he killed the supreme leaders, the new leadership, and they're better and move on. But the reality is not that. The same people that were in power before are running Iran today. And in terms of what they want regime survival, but increasingly what you hear is permanent peace. They want permanent peace. They don't want a temporary ceasefire. But what the Iranian side has to do is, are they willing to shift their positions on the United States, on Israel, in terms of the behavior in the region? Because if they're willing to do that, and the United States thinks that's a credible offer from Tehran, then again, diplomacy might just have a chance.
Okay, well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us and breaking some of this down for us. We really appreciate it. I'm sure we'll be in touch as things develop throughout the afternoon today.